Hello everyone, this is Wasim, and today we will learn how to take user input in Rust. So let's get started. So in order to take user input, we have to import a library called stdio and our main function. Inside that main function, we will use this library functions. So the first thing, like whenever we take any input from the user, so the function standard library function which we will use called readLine will return the string, read it as a string and return the string. So we'll create a string variable and we'll make it mutable because uh, initially it will store a empty string, but the readLine function will update it with the user input. So let's call it input and we will make it a string and new. So what it does, like this is a string class or string structure, and new is equivalent to calling constructor with nothing. Like it will assign empty string to this input. Now, if we want to take input, we have to call IO and we have to do std in bracket. We have to call this function, and this function we have to call read line. And inside this read line we have to pass our variable. So we will pass our variable, so we have to pass it as a reference and we have to pass it as mutable, like this read line function should able to change it, and reference because we want this data back to input, like we doesn't want copy to happen, and we'll pass this input. We'll talk about this reference and the borrowing and ownership in later videos, but for time being now, just think like ampersand means like we are passing borrowing this value, and inside this mute means this value can be changed by the read line function, and whatever the value will be assigned by read line will be shown, will be available to input. So it will be not a different copy. So after that, we have to do expect call, and we have to print this error, like whenever this, if this read fails, then what should we do? So we have to also mention that. So we will print a statement called uh, message called failed to read line, and that's it. Okay, yeah. So if you see error is gone. Now if we print this input, we will be able to print the user input, like we'll get that value printed which user has given. So let's run this program. Cargo run. Okay, it is asking for a user input. We will do hello world. Okay, and if we print enter, hello world will be again printed. Okay, so this is in case of a string, but sometime we want integer type. We want to convert this string into integer. Suppose if we are asking user to enter an integer, so in that case we have to parse this string into integer, and yeah, again it is very different from what we see in C. So let's discuss it here. It will take more little bit more time, but I want to cover it in this video itself. So suppose we want to write a function which will tell us whether the number is even or odd. And here I think we have to also learn, like in Rust, we have to handle all the possible cases. So it will be little bit different if you are very new in Rust. But yeah, like this is the way Rust is very popular, because we uh, have to handle every possible output which we can get from a function. So if you see, we are handling input. This is one output which we can get here, and if it fails also, we have to handle that. What we will do? So we are printing a message. We could have called any function also from here. So in Rust, we have to take care of all the possible output, which make Rust very robust. So now let's do that even odd program. Like user will enter the number and we will say whether it is even or odd. So I think it will be same here. What we can do, we can ask user to enter a number. So I'll just say enter a number. Okay. And when user will enter a number, we have to convert that string, which will be written by read line, to integer. So we'll write function for that. So fn str to int, and here we will take reference. Okay, then just say str, and we'll give the type. Okay, we will cover the function in next video, but uh, whenever we call a function in argument, we have to mention its type. So we will take string as a reference, and what we will return, yeah, so we will return a result. So if the inside function can give two error, one is result and another could be error. So two possible outputs, one could be your result and other could be error, then we have to return result. So any function, so I will discuss this later. So now just I will put 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗃 and it will give an error. So here I will call a string function called trim. So str dot trim. So trim removes the spaces and what we call new line character from the string. So we did that. Okay. So it will trim. So if you see, it is giving an error. It is saying expected 32 and found str. So okay, so it is saying we are returning str, but this function was expecting 32. So we will call parse, and we will parse this, and uh yeah, and we have to call the closer, like if it fails, what should we do? So I will map the error. So here in closer, whatever the value written by this, like whatever the error message will come after this, we will take that. So this underscore says that anything comes as a part of error, we will what we will do. Okay, we will return a statement. So the statement will return an error message saying invalid input, right? Enter valid, enter a invalid number. Okay. If you see here, it started giving error because this function can return two types of values. One is if it passes, it return the integer. If it fails, it will return a string. So in that case, we have to convert this return type to result. So result is the enum. So when I will teach the Rust enums, I'll cover this topic. And our intended result is I32. And when it fails, it will return a string. So I will make it a string. Okay, again, it is throwing an error. Let's see what is this error. Expected enum. This is true, right? Okay, let me see. Let's fix it. RESU. Okay, sorry. This is coming because we have given semicolon here. I think it will fix. Now what error we are getting? Let me see. So yeah, so in Rust, like until and unless you resolve everything, Rust will not allow you to compile. And this is why many people hate Rust, because to do very small things also you have to do lot of work. So it is saying that you are returning a string literal, but you have to return the string object. Okay. I think this will resolve the issue. Okay. So I'll explain this function and why we did not mention semicolon here. So if you see, this function takes reference string. So whatever the string, this input we will pass here and it will be received as a reference. And this statement has two possible output. One is I32 when we'll parse and the user input will be valid, then it will be I32. Otherwise, any other failure will result into this statement called invalid input, enter valid number. Okay, so yeah, so when we will call this function, we have to make sure that we should handle this pass and fail case both. So let's do it. So we will use the match statement. So match is something which is equivalent to uh, switch case in C. So here we will call this function str to int and we'll pass ampersand input, the input string which we got from this, and this is the Okay, let me see why it is coming. Okay, so it is asking me to define all the things. So first is okay. So when it will be okay, a num will be returned, and we will check that num value. So for now we will do nothing, comma. Okay, so after so the syntax is equal to and arrow, and when error will be occurred, we'll return a string. So just say e, and we will print that. So what we can do here, like uh, print ln e. So we'll print this e. Now we have to put it inside that double quote. Okay. So now let's test this. Okay, I will comment it out. This one. I know it is going long and it will be very new to you, but yeah, for doing small things in Rust, you have to do lot of work. But doing complex things, it will be much easier to do because by default, Rust compiler will make you introduce very less bug. So handling bigger project will be much easier in Rust. So we will do this cargo run and we will enter some number 12. So it should do nothing. But when we enter anything garbage, it should throw an error. Invalid input, enter a valid number. So till now it is working fine here. So now let's write even and odd logic. So again I will use match, and whatever the num we received, we will do modulus and by 2 equal to 0. So if it will be true, we will return odd, and if it is false, then we will return. So if it will be true, then we will return it is even, and if it is false, we will return it is odd. So let's start. If it is true, TRUE, okay, then println, and we will say is even, correct? So we have to give comma inside this. Let me copy this one. If it is false, odd, and we have to mention the num and num. Okay, so I think it will help us to say number whether it is print odd or even. So let's do this. Cargo run. We will enter 3 or 37. 37 is odd. Again, cargo run. If we enter 66, 66 is even. Even cargo run. If we enter garbage, we should throw an exception. So yeah. So if you see that it is very complex, but Rust has a lot of concepts which is different than C and C++, and these concepts help us to write error-free code. And if you have a real-time experience with C and C++, you might have come across a lot of exceptions during deployment phase. So yeah, so Rust minimize it to greater extent, like minimize it by 97 or 98%. Okay, so I'm done here. See you in the next video.